All right, so we're going to talk about how to create a footnote using Turabian formatting, Chicago/Turabian formatting. And so I have a generic paper here, and I'm going to come down. Here's my introduction, and it does have a fairly elaborate thesis statement. And actually, a good thesis statement will provide an outline for your paper in many cases. So for instance, I say this paper will address the kingdom of God as presented in four areas of the Bible, focusing first on Israel's hope for the kingdom of God expressed in the Old Testament, second on how Jesus inaugurated the kingdom of God in the Gospel and Acts, third on what the New Testament epistles say about how Christians should live in light of the kingdom of God, and finally on what the book of Revelation says about the reality of the inaugurated kingdom and the church's hope of the consummated kingdom. So I literally have four sections for this paper, and my thesis statement has given me my outline. Now, you may not always have a thesis statement that's that detailed, but a good thesis statement will provide you with a good framework for a paper. Now, to create a footnote, I've come down here, I've written sort of an introduction to this first section. So the kingdom of God has been given various definitions throughout church history or throughout Christian history, although most agree that it involves God's authority over the world and in particular over his people. Schreiner defines the kingdom of God as the king's power over the king's people in the king's place. And I need a opening quotation there. Now I'm going to put a footnote right here. This is on page 17 of his book, The Kingdom of God and the Glory of the Cross. So the easiest way to create your first footnote is to go down and create your bibliography entry. And so I've done that already. So we have Schreiner, Patrick, The Kingdom of God and the Glory of the Cross. That's the title of the book. And then we have City and State, Wheaton, Illinois. Actually, that should be Wheaton, Illinois. And then Crossway is the publisher, and then the date. So this is the Chicago Turabian reference in the bibliography. So I'm just going to highlight that. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to come up here to where I want to put the footnote in. I'm going to put my cursor right there. It comes after the period and the quotation marks. And now I'm going to come up to this tab at the top called References. So under References, I see this tab here, Insert Footnote. So I'm going to click that. So that's now going to create an automatically numbered footnote. So this is my first footnote, so it'll be number 1. The next one I create will be number 2. So it creates up here, it creates the footnote number. And then it also puts that same reference number down at the bottom of the page. And down here, I can type in the actual footnote. So I'm going to paste that reference. And notice, right click, I'm going to go to paste options. Actually, I'm just going to come down here. I'm going to merge formatting. And that will create the correct size down here. So my reference on my references page or in my bibliography is 12-point font, and here it's 10-point font. And so I just did the merge formatting, and that created it correctly. Now, we're going to have to change this around because footnotes do not have the same format as a bibliography reference. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change it so the first name is first rather than last name first. And so I'm just going to move that over. It will now be first name first, then last name. I'm going to get rid of the period. That needs to be a comma followed by the title of the book, and then get rid of that period. It's going to be followed by a parenthesis, and then we have the publisher information. That stays the same, Wheaton, Illinois, Crossway, 2018. Then a closing parenthesis, then a comma, and then the page number, which in this case is page 17. The only period I'm going to see is at the end. It ends with a period, or if I happen to have an abbreviation somewhere in the title, or if I'm doing something like editor, like if there's an editor, that might be ed period. But I don't use periods for separators. In the bibliography, notice that I have periods as separators. So there's one after the name, there's one after the title, and then there's one at the end. In the footnote, I use commas as separators. So first name first, followed by last name, and then comma, and then I have the title, and then I don't need anything here because it's got an opening parenthesis, then publisher information, close parenthesis, comma, page number, period. So that is a footnote for that particular source. So again, to create a footnote, I'll just do a dummy one here. So this is dummy stuff, need footnote. All right, so whatever I typed there, now I'm going to come here, I'm going to come over to references again, hit insert footnote. Notice it creates a 2, that's the next one in line, and it jumps down and creates a new place for me to type in my next footnote. So this is all done automatically. The numbering is done automatically, and so you don't have to worry about that. If you wanted to type in, add another footnote in between, so let me see, I'm going to add another footnote here. If I go ahead and add one there, notice that it changes this one that I just added before from 2 to 3. So it takes care of all the numbering for you. You can add in, you can take out footnotes, and it automatically renumbers everything. So that's very nice. You don't have to manually type in numbers. All right, so I'll get rid of that one. If you ever want to get rid of a footnote, you can just highlight it. If I do a backspace, it won't get rid of it immediately. It will highlight it, and then I backspace again, and that gets rid of it. Okay, let's now work on an article. So I don't have any articles yet in my bibliography. I'm going to go to a library web page, and here's a typical library web page. It's hooked into a lot of databases. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select author. That's often a good way if you already know the author that you're looking for. And I happen to know that there's a article by a guy named Vlach about the kingdom of God. So I'm just going to type in kingdom and see what I get here. Okay. Here's one, the kingdom of God in Paul's epistles. So that might be helpful. So I'll select that. Here it is. I can go to the PDF if I want, but at this point, I just want to find the reference for it. So I'm going to go to the Cite button over here at the right-hand side, click that. I'm going to look for Chicago 17th edition notes and bibliography. Note that there's also a Chicago 17th edition author date. I don't want that. I want Chicago 17th edition notes and bibliography. So I'll come over here, I'm going to highlight that whole thing, and then I'm going to copy it. Then I will come back over to my paper, and it's a V, so it'll go under the S's. So come over here, and I'm now going to paste, and I want to paste so that I am merging formatting. So it's that button there that says merge formatting. So I'm going to click that. That will give me the same formatting that I have in my paper, not the formatting that you find on the web page, which you don't want. So here is the reference, and it's all set up for me already. Sometimes this is not exactly correct. There might be some problems in what they have with the library web page, but you can tweak it. This one looks like it's okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy this part out. I want to make a footnote now. So I'm now going to copy this part of it, and I'll copy that. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to make a footnote from that article. So let's see. Vlok was talking about the kingdom in Paul's epistle, so we'll just go over here. So let's start something here. The kingdom of God is a reoccurring theme in the New Testament epistles. According to Vlok, compared with the Gospels, Paul does not stress the kingdom of God. And now I'm going to want a footnote for that. So I did copy that footnote, or that reference. I copied that reference previously. So now I'm going to come up to my references. I'm going to insert a footnote. And from the article itself, this is on page 59. I'm just looking at the article now that we found earlier. So it's on page 59, this point that I'm making, that Paul does not stress the kingdom of God compared with the Gospels. So now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to look at my paste options. And I'm going to pick again, merge formatting. So I'll click on that. Now I've got the reference in here, but it's not formatted correctly for a footnote. This is still a reference from a bibliography. So now I'm going to move the last name last. And I'm not sure I need this Michael Joseph stuff. First name, initial, last name, title, and then that's going to have a comma after it, not a period. So I have to replace the period with a comma. And then the rest of it's going to be very similar. I've got the name of the journal, the volume number, the issue number, the date. And now instead of the pages for the entire article, I only want the page that I'm on, which happens to be the first page of the article. So I'm just going to leave it as page 59. So you want only the page that you're referencing in the text. So here I'm saying, compared with the Gospels, Paul does not stress the kingdom of God. That's on page 59 of the article, so I'm going to include that page number in my reference, and then a period at the end. And some people will put the whole where they got it from. I think that's a little bit busy for footnotes. Some people might want you to do that. You can always ask, but I find that as long as you have it in your bibliography, which I do, this is where I got it, etc., etc. It keeps my footnotes from getting too cluttered, but that's up to you, or maybe up to the person that you're doing this for. So there's an example of an article, if I want to refer to a reference again in my footnotes, so let's say I'll come down here to the inaugurated and consummated kingdom and bring it back up. Some text that I wrote, and now I'll mention something else that Vlock mentioned. As Vlock notes, the resurrection is key for Paul in terms of God's kingdom. All right, that brought me back down to the next page. And so now I'm going to insert a footnote here. I'm still at the references, so references, insert footnote. But note that my previous footnote was from Vloch. And so one way that I can do this is I can just say ibid, I-B-I-D, period, comma, and then the page number. And in that article, it's page 60. If I'm referring to the previous footnote, I can say ibid, period, comma, and then the page number. Now let's say I want to go back and refer to a previous resource that comes before the last footnote. So in this case, let's say we'll go back to the one from Schreiner. All right, so now I'm going to say something about what Schreiner says. So I'll say Schreiner notes that something. The kingdom is something. This is not a real point. So that's something that I'm saying about what Schreiner is. And let's say it's on page 122. So now I'm going to insert the footnote, but now I don't need to give all the information. I can just put the last name, and I can put the title of the book. That's sometimes helps. So just the title of the book. And I can leave out the rest of that information since I've already given it one time. So here's the title and then the page number. So page 122, just like that. So I don't need to repeat all the information in a footnote once I've created a footnote that has all the information. So the first footnote will have all the information. Later footnotes don't need to have it all. Similarly, I could do something similar for the article. I just put the name of the last name and the title, and then I could just put the page number. I don't need all the rest of the detailed information about the journal, volume, issue, all that kind of stuff. So once I've done all that, subsequent footnotes, I can just put last name, title, and page number. That's very interesting because this is actually a mistake. The reference in the library website has a apostrophe S in the, so I said sometimes these are incorrect. Yeah, it looks like the library website, it has a mistake in the title. I'm going to correct that. As I said, they're not always perfect. Sometimes you have to correct what the library gives you under the Cite button. And sure enough, in this case, the title is incorrect. So I've had to correct that both here and in my footnote. Not a major deal, but something to be aware of. So there's some details of how to do footnotes in a document.